Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We just wait for a couple of more minutes to get more seats filled up. There are some front seats left, so please sit down, buckle up, and we will start in a minute. So there's still all right. I think we are about to start. Good everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the How to Optimally Leverage Your UEM Solution by using FlexApp. My name is Morteza Steiki, and I'm your host today. From our studios in Amsterdam, I'm pleased to introduce you today to today's presenters. Barry is one of our solution architects at Liquidware, and I'm pleased to have the co-presenter, who's one of my old friends, old colleague, Dennis van Dam. Dennis being the current product manager at iGel, and I'm happy to have you here today, Dennis. The reason for us to have Dennis in this webinar is mainly because of his broad experience in the UEM space. Dennis used to be the product manager at Ivanti for the Ivanti workspace control till end of last year. And he's been in the EUC space for the last 2 decades, and that's one of the reasons to have him today as our guest. A couple of housekeeping stuff for today's webinar. This webinar will be recorded, is as we speak recorded. The link will be sent to you early next week, and please do share it with your colleagues in case they were not able to join today. Next, all attendees are on mute, so in case you have questions, because we do like to keep this interactive as possible, please use the chat box, the question box, for asking the questions. So with that said, I'd like to thank you again for joining us this afternoon, and I'm handing over the microphone to my colleague, Barry. Barry, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Morteza. So welcome everyone again, and before we start, actually I want to go over the topics we are going to talk about today, and one of them is the history of UEM, also the future of AppV, or maybe the fate for AppV, about vendor locks, Intune, and things like co-management. Of course, we have some demos scheduled, so we are actually showing you what we talked about today. Now let's start with the first one, the history of end user environment management, also known as advanced profile management or workspace management or what have you. This is mainly about the user's workspace and their settings, their personal settings, right? So managing it, storing it. But the history of UEM is really about the early days when centralized computing such as terminal services took off and people began working inside and outside the office, maybe working remotely already, like 20 years ago was possible, changing desks, changing endpoints. And while group policies and roaming profiles could be a solution, many customers decided to go a step further and choosing another solution on top of the default Microsoft stack. Because of its many additional requirements for features like adding additional context to workspaces, and choosing another solution on top of Microsoft added a lot of flexibility and security to the workspace. However, many UEM architectures are still designed to work on-premises only because they are tied to local Active Directories, storing configuration in massive databases or on file shares. And next to that, applications are mainly offered to users installed from a golden image or offered through AppV. So thinking about that and what is changing in most organizations today is the question is the user environment management solution you are using today still a reliable solution for what's next when you look at your application deployment scenarios, when you look at application publishing scenarios, but also the modern workplaces. Something else that is really interesting today as we talk to a lot of customers and partners about this topic is that AppV is still a delivery model for their main application delivery mechanism. And AppV, don't get me wrong, it's great when it works, but it also had limited use cases because apps are often too isolated and together working with other applications and integration in Windows itself. And in addition to that, Microsoft also stopped development of AppV already back in 2015, and its standard support in 2018, and the end of extended support is also not too far away from where we are now. So organizations, in my opinion, should really get ready to look at other solutions if they haven't already. Just think of all those applications that are now and will be there for the foreseeable future that need additional infrastructures, additional deployment mechanisms compared to maybe SaaS products. Additionally, when you think about AppV, it's not a really reliable model for cloud managed workspaces. There's no support for future Windows versions, as Microsoft is stopping development of the product, and it's not really reliable for internet-facing devices, so internet-connected workspaces. Now, the next topic we are talking about are the modern workplaces. And of course, these are the types of devices I was just talking about that are cloud managed and internet connected only most of the times. The modern workplace itself is still changing rapidly, and most implementations are not yet in their final state within organizations. And at the same time, many vendors have focused their user environment management solutions and application management solutions on only one platform, resulting in lack of flexibility for both the IT admins, but also for the end users. And of course, that hits the user experience. In the recent years, organizations have been struggling with these choices and also migrating away from centralized desktop infrastructures to the modern workplaces. And sometimes they are forced by end users because of the high demand of collaboration tools like Microsoft Teams or Zoom and all the associated video requirements or audio requirements. So on the one hand, people want to migrate or need to migrate from centralized desktop infrastructures, but need some time to design the new workplace, design new application deployments. But at the same time, they are heavily forced by the end users demanding a modern workplace right now. But still, like I said before, many applications are still unable to work in a modern environment because of the requirements for file shares, database connections, or other legacy issues, which actually forces organizations to maintain multiple platforms. So you will have the modern workplace, but you also still have the other platform like Citrix apps and desktops, for example, to serve one of the applications that need to come from the data center. It doesn't matter if they are in cloud or in on-premise data centers, still the same use case. Now, trying to manage different platforms brings up the vendor lock, right? The vendor lock problem. a lot of user environment management and application management solutions are focusing on only a single platform. And in that case, you need another solution to manage the second platform. Right? So different solutions, different deployment scenarios, different deployment workflows, but also double administration when you think about modifying shortcuts, modifying policies. Everything has to happen twice if you have different solutions for different platforms. Although some of the vendors maybe think that UEM solutions are no longer the future, we still see a high demand for managing workspaces on modern workplaces because of the shortcomings in today's device management solutions. So why is that? Why Microsoft is telling everyone to use modern workplace together with Intune, for example, but why are then still a lot of organizations, most organizations, demanding a solution on top of it, like we did 20 years ago when we introduced terminal services and other centralized workspaces? Now, looking at this next slide, and again, I'm really not saying that Intune is not a good platform, because it's a perfect platform to manage your devices. It was initially designed for device management, and that's still where it does a really good job, managing the modern workplaces, forcing security, but also check for compliancy. Along with all managing the base images, features like autopilot, it's really a great effort using these applications and techniques to manage your workspace. But Intune brings back another challenge, right? Like we talked about in the history of UEM. It does not always meet the requirements we have talked about before today for complex enterprise environments that need the fine-grained filtering, for example, and management of settings. It simply falls short or becomes too complex doing this. So managing the complex environments, deploying applications, that is really the good use case for solutions on top of Intune. But next thing is synchronization problems. We hear a lot of customers and partners complain about. These are problems we didn't have when we didn't work from the cloud. When we work on premise, everything was immediately available, at least if you use the right products. But now is the question for end users and for IT admins: when exactly will my settings or applications be available or installed? Will it take 6 minutes or 6 hours? We don't know. Right? It's always, it seems you need some luck to get it quickly. So for me as an administrator and an end user, this is really unpredictable and gives me a bad user experience. Now, of course, I'm from a vendor, but is this all true? And I thought, you know what, let's ask a friend for an independent opinion. And I'm sure you all know who he is if you see it. I think everybody played around with ChatGPT, and it's an awesome platform. It's great just for checking your scripts, checking documents, but also gain knowledge, right? So I asked ChatGPT what the main problems are around application deployment and synchronization times that we talked about in the previous slide. So what does ChatGPT say? The several main issues that can arise when deploying Windows 32 applications with Microsoft Intune. The first one, application packaging. The second one, application dependencies, application detection, application deployment, application updates. These are all really topics that make sense when deploying applications. So if you think about that and you want to use Intune as your main platform to deploy applications to your endpoints, why is it not the best platform then? Why is it having all these issues or maybe lack of features of control. But also the next one, complaints about the sync times. The main complaints: delayed or slow sync times, inconsistency, lack of control again. So it's really a matter of what requirements do you have as an organization and what is the user experience you want to deliver to your end users. That cannot really be met with using Intune for those two topics. But okay, all jokes and truth aside, I think it's good time to ask a real person. So Dennis, are you still there?
Yes, Barry, I am.
All right. So Dennis, tell me what you think about the topics and the current ecosystem that we just talked about.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, like Barry already mentioned, customers who are using App v5, they will still have to start looking for another solution, because it's quite simple. App v5 becomes end of life within the next 3 years. So there's not much time yet. Of course, this new solution can be a Microsoft solution, MSIX, which is still under heavy development and, in my opinion, not production ready yet. So this is just my opinion, and it's based on what I hear in the field when talking to customers and partners, and of course on Microsoft's own shift of the end of life date. So that was 3 years, that shift. First, it should be end of life in January this year, and it will now be in 2026. So that's not a good sign, I think. So let's then look at FlexApp. FlexApp already exists for 10 years, and which also covers all the features that Microsoft brings with MSIX and MSIX App Attach. The same features are already there for years. So we can conclude that FlexApp is way easier to manage if you look at it. On-prem or to use it for cloud delivery. You can use FlexApp 1 for offline usage. So just like similar with App v5, the package is simply delivered to your machine and you're good to go with your laptop. But also, if you are using FlexApp in stateless VDI situations, then it will be like MSIX App Attach. You push that shortcut and the app will be attached to your machine and it's ready to be used. So other application solutions out there can be hard to manage. There are a lot of application solutions there that use several consoles or extra software packages that you need to fire up to manage the product. Only some of them are cloud ready. A lot of them aren't cloud ready yet, and a few can be used between several types of machines. So I mean then VDI in combination with laptops, where with FlexApp you don't have that limitation. So also sharing those packages between different types of machines is very important. Else, if you cannot do that, you have to create 10 packages for 10 different environments, and you have to manage those packages and keep updating those packages. You don't want that. So that's good that you can use FlexApp on different types of machines or operating systems even. So then other things that are out there are application layering solutions. These look great, but you're directly bound to the vendor-specific platform that they are delivered on. So if you're picking VMware or Citrix and build all your applications based on their layering solution, then you have to stick with that platform. You cannot simply move over to any other platform there. You don't have these limitations when you choose for FlexApp. So operating systems, let's talk about that quickly. If you would choose, for example, for MSIX, then you'll see that MSIX only works on the latest operating systems. But we all know that many enterprises still run legacy operating systems, 2012 servers, 2016 servers, Windows 7. You cannot step over to MSIX then. You have to stick with App v5 or any other solutions. Plus, if you choose for MSIX, you have to go for MSIX for the newer operating systems. FlexApp which already exists for a long time, doesn't have that limitation. You can simply run it on legacy operating systems and on the newer ones. So that's also a limitation that you don't have with FlexApp. So like Matthijs mentioned, in my previous role as a product manager for IWC, Ivanti Workspace Control, I spoke to many customers and partners. They mainly apply their end-user computing products, so IWC, on VDI or Citrix environments, and less on laptops or other fat clients. So looking at that product, IWC, it has kind of MSIX support. It's a feature built in. You can simply point out to an MSIX. It will be loaded in your console and it will be deployed to your session, which is great. But back to where they apply their end-user computer product, it's on VDI or Citrix, where you have your write cache, where you fill up your disk with write actions. If you would then go for the MSIX implementation, which is available in IWC, you will fill up your write cache and your machine will simply stop. In such a situation, you would need app attach, which isn't part of the product. So this is then interesting because if you cannot use MSIX natively in that console, you could choose to play around with FlexApp, because FlexApp is easy to integrate with any end-user computing solution out there. You only need a small script, just a few commands, and you're good to go. The package will be or attached or it will be streamed to your machine. So for VDI, it will simply be attached and it's there, which by the way, isn't even needed if you're a Liquid customer or a Nerdio customer, because they have native support for FlexApp already, because FlexApp is cool. So we can go into detail there, also not for the scripting, but we'll share some links afterwards, I think, pointing out to some cool blog articles explaining how to do this. So if we can go to the next slide.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a really interesting topic that you mentioned about 10 different platforms and 10 different applications. When one of the applications need to be updated, there's a massive waste of time repackaging all those different applications again. And also when you look at that from the OS point of view, OS updates are also heavily taking time from the IT admins. Right, so two things that that are really conflicting with time and resources in IT departments.
Yes, cool.
There you go.
Okay, so when sticking with Microsoft application virtualization, many people say, okay, like Barry already said, we'll do it in Intune. Well, Intune isn't flexible and isn't delivering everything that you need. App delivery is not just everything. You also need, and you need to think about your application settings. Your end users will expect their settings to roam. They don't want to set the settings in Office every time if they move from AVD to XenApp or anywhere else. They need that to roam. So how can we do that? Of course, we can apply portability settings from Profile Unity. Simply add Profile Unity to FlexApp. Manage your FlexApp from one console where you also manage Profile Unity. Or what I tested a few months ago, use Ivanti Workspace Control. The feature user settings can easily be used to roam the settings of your FlexApps. So that's again better for the end user experience. So combining FlexApp with Profile Unity is of course the preferred way, but again, you can easily integrate FlexApp with any other end-user computing solution out there. So if you're using Citrix or VMware to manage your shortcuts, you can also add some commands to stream or attach FlexApp. The advantage, of course, of using FlexApp together with Profile Unity is that the admin has one location where they manage the solutions. And that's especially for IWC customers or the old REST customers, very nice to hear, because they are used to manage everything from out of one console. So end users will also be happy when you're applying FlexApps, because the click to layer technology, so I click on the link, and at that point it will be attached or streamed to my machine. Doesn't impact their login at all. It's just there when they need it. So to be honest, everyone in the session, simply check out Profile Unity. Also pick FlexApp to manage your applications. Grab all your app fees, convert some of them. There's a feature to automatically convert app fees to FlexApps, or even to MSIX if you want to compare that, which can also be managed from out of Profile Unity then. And set up your POC. It's quite easy. You only need an AD, Azure AD, blob storage, or a UEC path, and you're good to go. So yeah, test it out, check it out. It's free to download from the website. So if there's further no questions, I'd say back to you, Barry.
Cool, thanks, Dennis. Great to have an independent overview of how different UEM solutions could benefit from FlexApp. And it's absolutely true. You can download it and try it. It's there for a trial available. So please let us know if you want to try that, and of course you want that. So the perfect duo to deploy workspaces and applications, and I call that co-management in one of the first slides. Co-management simply means embrace and extend. So we do not replace Microsoft, we extend Microsoft functionality. So therefore, in our vision, Microsoft and Liquidware are the perfect duo. Why? Simply because Liquidware delivers all composite user preferences and policies with a rich context-aware engine. And I'm showing it to you in a couple of minutes. It is cloud ready, Azure Active Directory capable, and it can handle blob storage. And also it's suitable for any platform and any Windows OS. Like it's talked about, the different platforms and different Windows versions that will come out someday are still needed to be managed with workspaces and applications. And the single window for all of your workspaces, whether you're using AVD, Citrix, Intune, physical machines, VMware machines, we don't care, it's available from one single management console. And this, of course, saves a lot of time, and in the end, it saves you money. So it makes sense. Now let's take a look at it. How does it look from our management consoles, and how does it work? So cloud ready, this is our Profile Unity and FlexApp management console with a few different configurations available for the demo environment. And these different configurations can be used for managing different platforms and multi-tenant options. All configurations have all UEM modules available and are designed to require only 4 or 5 clicks to enable and configure new rules. Popular features such as, especially for modern workplaces, such as privilege elevation, for dynamically assigning administrative privileges, application restrictions, hiding and blacklisting and whitelisting application folders and executables, and of course our favorites, FlexApp and FlexApp One modules, are there in every configuration. And of course, still printers and drive mappings are widely used. We offer profile portability and an easy way to manage ADMX, existing ADMX files, as you were used to with going through all your settings, enabling, disabling them, or configuring them. Right, so if you compare that with the current situation for not co-managed situations, this is really hard to manage those types of policies. Now, of course, we offer shortcut management for your desktop and start menu and pinning items. And last but not least, we have a powerful trigger module that allows you to enable settings just based on an event at an endpoint, such as session reconnection, unlock, or time interval, or IP changes. And in this demo, we deploy the configuration to Azure Blob Storage with the appropriate credentials for this tenant. So we select the path to deploy it and the credentials which are bound to the configuration. Now let's also take a look at our filter management, the context engine, which is the powerful engine that creates the context. This now allows you to create Azure Active Directory filter groups and search directly in Azure Active Directory for a security group name, which then matches, of course, the current state of your Active Directory services. So seeing all these groups here are existing groups, of course, in Azure Active Directory. Right, so there cannot be faulty entries because you can simply search for it and select it. Now, as you may know, aside from Azure Active Directory and Active Directory groups, there are a lot of other credentials available that are in the product by default that can create additional context based on your organizational needs. Right, there's a long list of conditions available that you can combine with and, of, or rules. In all the modules in the configuration, you will find the filter drop-down option that allows you to select the appropriate filter for the specific configuration. Okay. Now, the link to the blob storage, we simply need to add cloud credentials to our management console in the admin page. We need to copy or put in the credentials, copy the encrypted client key back from our config and add it to the endpoint. When that is linked, so if you copy the credentials back, when that is linked, the client has access, read-only or with specific rights to the storage container to access and write some of the settings. Now you can use Storage Explorer to actively control what's in your blob account and manage it and add apps and configurations directly from our management console. Of course, here we look at just a few examples of deployed applications, customization files and logos that ProFunity can access, and you can design your own virtual folder infrastructure. For existing customers and partners who have recently upgraded, this is where you enable Azure Active Directory integration. You go back to the admin page, select Access and Authentication tab, where you can find the Azure Active Directory Services button, and you need to configure it with your company credentials. Now that we have configured access to a blob container and access Azure Active Directory, the final step is to deploy the ProFunity client and FlexApp client to your endpoints. Actually, it's one client, but it's the ProFunity and FlexApp client, but you need to deploy it to the endpoint. This can be done from within Intune, of course. We offer two different deployment types on top of the Windows Autopilot and Azure Active Directory joint devices, or just through a Windows 32 app, which is a Intune WinApp wrapped client together with a separate PowerShell setting script. Or we can use a PowerShell script only that deploys and updates the client and settings. Of course, if you still manage your golden image or device, physical device with things like SCCM, it can deploy from SCCM or any other deployment mechanism. So freedom of choice, that is one of the important visions that we have inside Liquidware. I just showed you some examples how we can manage our solution from cloud and how you can embrace the cloud solution, for example, for Microsoft, to use together with your devices. Now, people will have heard of both FlexApp and FlexApp One. It's the same product, but it simply means that we have the right choice for the right use case. And you have choice now of how you want to deploy the applications. So, of course, both have advantages. That's why they are in one product. So if you have the product, you can decide what you want to use for which use case. For example, with FlexApp One, you have the choice to use your existing UEM solution and deploy application with our agent, or manage it with our UEM solution and our agent. While the other is more suitable with multi-session Azure Virtual Desktop deployments, because we can hide applications for users that do not have access to the application, for example, that are on the same box as the other users are. So again, different use cases, different scenarios that will ask for one of these specific FlexApp use cases. But in all situations, you only package an application once, which you can deploy on different platforms. Now, we also recently released a very large number of new features related to FlexApp and also related to Pro for Unity. But I just want to highlight a few of them, which really make sense looking at the topics we discussed today. The first one is AppV and MSIX migration or conversion, which accelerates migrations to future platforms. If you are heavily on AppV, it's simple. You cannot easily migrate to your future platform because AppV is still in place and need to be repackaged in some other format. So how cool is it if you can just leverage our packaging console, migrate your existing AppV packages, and also MSIX, by the way, if you have it, into the FlexApp format, right? And then ready to use, and as well as the old platform, maybe Windows 10 or apps and desktops environments, Server 2012, like Dennis mentioned, or the new Windows 11 Modern Workplace. Also, we released secure applications, and that means that we now are able to assign our own apps that we package with FlexApp with your company certificate authority, but also added two-factor authentication before we can launch an app using OAuth, like Office 365 authentication. So thinking about that, people using your applications, if they are not entitled anymore to the application or are not a member of your organization anymore, they cannot use the application as well. Even if they still have it, even if they still have the format offline, they cannot use it if they do not authenticate. And last but not least, with the release of FlexApp 1, we meet the offline requirements for disconnected workspaces. It was out a little bit earlier already, but recently a lot of changes and new features are added around that topic. But still with the benefits of separating apps from your OS. Now, I want to show you how we can actually migrate applications and deliver it to a modern workplace. So let's look at it in the next demo. This is a look at our latest packaging console. After logging on with the appropriate credentials, you will get access to our central inventory. So you will see all the applications that you have packaged before, and that enables you to update an existing package, edit packages, delete packages, etc. Now I want to convert one of your AppV packages to our FlexApp format without repackaging the app itself. I have a couple of AppV packages locally on my machine that I just need to select from the packaging wizard. For this demo, I'm using the really complex application WinSCP, but it serves the goal for this demo, right? So I need to select Enable FlexApp 1 if I want to create a FlexApp 1 application as well. And I define my target location. Right, so in this case, it will be a cloud location with cloud credentials. Now just press convert, and then we'll wait for the process and upload to complete, which of course depends on your internet connection. So in the meantime, I'll open the blob container and show you the before and after situation. Right, so we are looking at the blob container again. This is the FlexApp 1 repository. It doesn't have WinSCP. Now we wait for the application conversion to finish and upload. So it's still sending it to the cloud. And then we can see in the blob storage again that now the folder is being created with WinSCP, and it has the FlexApp and FlexApp 1 format together in the blob storage. That's right. Immediately from that moment, I can decide where I want to deploy the FlexApp 1 and where I want to deploy the FlexApp application. It's the same package, but just one is converted into the executable. Now I first need to assign it to my existing configuration. So I'm opening my Modern Workplace configuration, go to the FlexApp 1 module, and I just add or clone an existing assignment and define the new application name. So I need to copy the path. I save my settings. Let's also change the description. I change my settings, save it, and update my changes into the configuration. So as you can see, it was assigned to Azure Active Directory groups as well. And then I only need to commit the modified configuration to my blob container. So to show you the pop-up, the AZ path is the Modern Workplaces path we just looked at. Configuration, there it is. So to demo this, I will switch to my Azure Active Directory endpoint, which is enabled with sign-in for Windows Hello. And as you can see, it was really quick, but the new splash screen was available that you now can customize with your own company logos and colors. But first I will open my cache location, and I can see actually the file coming in, downloading to my endpoint together with an Active Directory token, in this case an Azure Active Directory token file, to make sure I'm still allowed to use the application. Once that is done, my app appears in the shortcut locations, right? So on the desktop or in the start menu, whatever I decided, and is ready for use by my end user. So this all happens within a couple of seconds after logging in. Applications are natively integrated, so I can find it in my program files. I can start it from there as well. That also means other applications can find it and integrate with it. Now, to make this demo even more powerful, I will enable a few additional apps that are pre-configured and refresh my apps on my endpoint. So I enable them, I update my configuration, I commit my changes to the blob storage, and I can simply refresh my apps with a trigger based on a shortcut that is in my start menu. So my user can click it, or I can use an interval or any other event that we talked about. He will get a pop-up because he clicked the shortcut in the start menu with a notification that applications refresh is finished and applications will become available shortly. Now, because FlexApp integrates natively, all function and context menus services work within a second. So as you can see, 7-zip is downloaded. As soon as I right-click now my Explorer, it will show 7-zip context menus in my mouse. The same for services or shortcuts, etc. Everything works within a second. So no waiting and no productivity loss for your end user, which is really important nowadays. I will just start one of the other applications, and because this is also fast, I can now just have some spare time to play one of my favorite pinball games that is also downloaded to my endpoint. So let's give it a go. And this has been a while because it was back in, I don't know, Windows 95 or something. So there we go. So a short wrap up about why FlexApp is a good choice to become your default application deployment option, or to just replace AppV or MSIX. Dennis already mentioned it. We are there already for more than 10 years. That means we are continuously developing the solution already since 2011. So it's almost 12 years now when the first version came out. There is focus on the solution. We just focus on our 3 and in the near future 4 core solutions that are around the end user computing. And that's our focus and will be. That also means we have a clear roadmap for the products, for all of the products, support, of course, here in Europe, but also in the US. And there is a dedicated team available for those solutions. Now we are building adoption across all delivery platforms. A couple of them are mentioned, but also this whole topic of the webinar is around adopting FlexApp through other UEM solutions if you want to. And simply, we keep it simple and adapt to our customer needs. So that's really important, and it has always been for us to adapt to the customer request that we get. And with that, I think we entered our final part of the webinar, and hopefully we have some questions. So, Morteza, are there any questions dropped in the questionnaire?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Dennis, for your clear explanations. We do have some questions, but let's start with two questions that are not really applying to Liquidware. One of the questions that the audience is asking is AppFi still supported on Server 2022 RDS? I guess that's a Microsoft question, but I'm sure you guys might be able to answer this.
I don't think the full feature set of AppFi is supported on Server 22. The same for Windows 11. It does work somehow, but it's limited. And of course, that's because there is no development around the feature and services in the newer OSs.
All right. Then the other question is, although we're Liquidware, so we haven't got that information, but obviously there are some partners. Dennis, you're a famous head, you're a famous guy in the EUC. So and there is a question going on. Obviously, you might be aware of that. There is an email sent out by your former company to the partners that no new licenses will be sold after Q1. We're not aware of that. You might be aware of that. What is it? Can you elaborate a bit on that?
I actually had that question several times. Also on our Disrupt event, I met a lot of partners who had received a email. But from my side, there's no answer to the question, obviously, because I wasn't involved in that, and I wasn't with the company anymore at that point. So I don't know what was really sent out, but to get a real answer to the question, the partners should reach out to the account representative at Ivanti to get an official statement about that. I cannot say anything about it.
No, clear. I thought since I asked everyone to ask questions, although we answered more of them, I thought, just as respect for the audience and the gentleman who asked this question, I thought, let me ask that one. So there are some questions coming in. Please keep them coming in. Just let's start with the first one. How do I distribute a FlexApp 1 package with SCCM or Intune, for example? Barry, that's more a question for you.
Yeah, so as you have seen in the demo, the FlexApp 1 package is a single file. It's an executable. So with SCCM, you can easily distribute it with just adding the executable, like with other solutions out there as well. And we have specific command lines available that are able to manage the behavior of the FlexApp 1. If they are mounted on demand, if they are mounted at login or on boot, things like that. For Intune, it's a little bit different, a little bit harder, because you need to wrap it with the Intune Win packaging tool. But for all the other stuff I added, it's the same. We have the same command lines available. So a little bit more scripting.
Okay. So another question, how does FlexApp 1 distribution works with Profile Unity Management Console?
So as soon as an application is assigned to an end user, when we log in or when we refresh the session, the FlexApp 1 module is triggered, and we look actively for the group memberships that are assigned to applications. And when you met one of the requirements, the application is downloaded directly from a cloud storage location. So that means even if you are working from home or from the Starbucks, if you have an internet connection, the application will be downloaded to your OS and it will stay there until you're not entitled to the app anymore, which means you can use it as long as you want, offline, in the plane, whatever, until you are back online and the application is removed because you're not entitled.
All right, thanks. Barry, one more. If there is a FlexApp one application update, how does the client handle it?
That's a good question, really. So when there is an update available, so I add a new version of the app to the management console, and you are using our management plane to do it, we will first download the next version next to the existing version. So the new version will be downloaded with a .next extension to the existing version. And as soon as the application is not in use anymore, or when you reboot the machine or log off, log on again, it will be swapped with the old version. So that's how updates works. So that we will distribute them immediately, but we wait for the application to become available to replace, which of course can be forced some way or the other, but normally we will wait for the user to do this. I can't hear you, Morteza.
Sorry, Barry. I guess the next question I might be able to answer myself, but please feel free to fill me in there, Barry. The question is coming and it says, are there any limitations on the evaluation version of Profile Unity with FlexApp? Can I set up an lab environment with the evaluate everything? I believe, well, we don't, unlike the other vendors, our trial license, our evaluation license on the website, it comes already with 5 users key, and it's full functional, so 5 users for 2 weeks, so without any sales rep being interfering you or calling you, you're able to you're able to install the product and test it yourself. Obviously, we're more than happy to help you and get you up and running. Use some best practice. So hopefully that answers the questions. Did I miss something, Barry, on that one?
No, that's it. You're right.
There's another question, and this might be a question for me as well. Is Profile Unity and FlexApp licensed per user? Yeah, we license it per user and not per application or per device. Our products are licensed per user, and what the price should be, it depends, right? We do have our retail price, but let's have a chat later on. We can explain you more. Looking at your situation and at your case, I believe first we need to show the value, and that's we're more than happy to do so. Next question: if you are an MSP, how do you stay in control of where the applications and packages, for example, a FlexApp One work in? Does it well? A FlexApp One would work on any device, right? But what if I only want to work on one of the customer's device? Barry. I'm sorry. Let me repeat it again. So the question is, if you are an MSP, so if I'm an MSP and I have multiple clients I'm managing and multiple applications, how does that work? Will you be able to use the same?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So applications are not tied to a specific client OS or client at itself. So you can use packages across different tenants. That means if I package Adobe Reader, for example, I can distribute it to 10 different clients I manage. And with clients, I mean organizations within my MSP organization. Of course, if I don't want to distribute it to some of the organizations, I will limit it with the context engine. So that means only the entitled organizations will receive the application.
Okay. Another question comes in, Barry, and that says, I think it's a roadmap question. We recently launched 6.85. I'm not sure whether this functionality is in it. It's the reporting capabilities to see if any mount failures on the endpoints. Do we have that? Is that currently in 6.85, or are we expecting it in the next versions?
So in 6.85, there is reporting available, but that is around what is assigned to what users, what applications. So it will give you a better knowledge about what do I have configured in my organization, and if I am user Morteza, what applications will he get? But on the other end, actively monitoring application usage, at one end, this is what Stratosphere does. Our other solution, Stratosphere, monitors your endpoint and application usage, even if it's a FlexApp. It also monitors failures because we monitor event viewers, etc. But from a roadmap perspective, we are planning to offer some kind of real-time monitoring solution for application usage around the FlexApp 1 scenario, where also mount failures will be recorded. There is a sneak preview available, but it's something we maybe can share one-on-one if this is a serious request. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We will get back to you, Satish, on that one. We still have 4 minutes, and we have more questions. So let's keep it very quick and short. Is there anything? Questions coming in? Is there Is there something you would not recommend by packaging, FlexApping, layering? I believe you.
Yeah, there's one hard limitation, and it is kernel mode drivers. This is a question I get a lot. So this is a hard limitation where I'm sure we cannot package it due to the nature of Windows. We do have post and pre-scripting available, so you can still install a driver if that's necessary. Other than that, we're almost good to go for everything.
Okay, because I believe there's another question regarding the same. Can FlexApp handle drivers because AppV can't? Is that
printer drivers, maybe scanners, USB devices can capture? Yeah.
All right. Is it possible to convert a FlexApp 1 to FlexApp the other way around?
Yeah, so sometimes people delete the original package and they only have FlexApp 1 available. You can copy it and export the contents to a normal file structure.
Okay. Yep. Let's make this a last question unless more questions are coming in. We do. This is the question. We have a lot of AppV packages. I believe Dennis mentioned the conversion. Is there any automation options available?
Yes, it is. So first of all, for AppV and MSX, you can do bulk migrations. I only showed one application due to time, but you can import 100 applications at once. But we also have a automation platform available in the same product, which allows you to truly automate application packaging. So not converting, but packaging from an executable, from MSI with silent parameters, for example, into the FlexApp format without touching the actual packaging console. So that is available.
Good. Again, there are more questions coming in, but I promised to stop on time, so let's do it. Please, if there are more questions or if you felt shy to ask those questions even though I was asking them, feel free to send us an email, info@liquidware.com or info@liquidware.eu. For now, I'd just like to thank you both, but in special Dennis. Dennis, thank you for being here today with us and for your time. It's good to see you again, this time on online. And for now, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon, and we will share with you the recording beginning of next week. And again, if there are any questions, feel free to contact us on info@liquidware.com. Thank you, and see you next time.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. And heb jij het geënt?